So this evening is actually building on a talk I gave a few weeks ago on appreciative joy. And it was during that time that I shared that, so the title, if you didn't see, it's Joining with the Buddha as Friends and Kinsmen of the Sun. What we learned a few weeks ago was something that I learned from Stephen Batchelor at a retreat a week long with him, in which the title of the retreat actually was The Solar Buddha, which was the original title of his latest book called After Buddhism. And it's from Stephen then. He's a good resource. He's a great teacher and a scholar as well. But he shared that the title came because of recognizing or understanding that the Buddha was born into the Sakiyan clan that traced their mythic roots to the sun. And so therefore the Buddha was known, and maybe others of his clan, but he in particular certainly was referred to as the friend and kinsman of the sun. And itself, in that very early stage of Buddhism, was a symbol of awakening. Now we may see symbols of, certainly in the Zen tradition, of the moon, which is actually a symbol also here of equanimity, which is sort of very close to the experience, allegedly, of that balancing and freedom of letting go and not having to be pulled towards wanting and not wanting. So it's interesting, the evolutions of those symbols. But as the sun, so this evening we're going to track some of those images. We're just going to carry them. And as the sun radiates its warmth and light to all without distinction, so too that image of the sun that we're going to open to is also an image in which we can open to the goodness and the, let's see, this is working, that goodness within ourselves and that goodness within each other through this practice, through the practices, the heart practices of loving kindness and compassion and appreciative joy. We may also imagine, for those of us who weren't here during that talk, the sun as well as the radiance of that 500-year-old statue of the Buddha, which, as Jack Kornfield spoke of in his Wise Heart, which had been covered and hidden under layers of clay, forgotten and never even known perhaps by these Thai monks. Until one day, one of the Thai monks took his flashlight and peered inside a widening crack in this thick clay, and a flash of brilliant gold shone back. So inside this plain old statue, as Jack goes on, Kornfield goes on, the monks discovered one of the largest and most luminous gold images of the Buddha ever created in Southeast Asia. So this story, which I have shared, can also be an analogy as to how we too can become armored under those layers of protective fear, of hiding, and identify with the clay, that conditioning, the conditioning of which we are born into a time and place and family, emotional field, all of that stuff that is shaping before we even have a sense that we are even a separate being. But that conditioning that leads to craving as we age or get older, ill will and confusion, that feeds an ongoing delusion of our being separate and not enough, in which we too forget or never even knew, depending on how we were raised, with kindness or not, that we too embody that basic goodness and that radiance inside of our own luminous awareness, and that which is often referred to as our Buddha nature, which is not fixed. It's the potentiality that can manifest when we open to it. So today, carrying the metaphors of that golden Buddha within and the simile of the sun, which Venerable Analayo, another younger scholar, has described. My hope is that we will feel into what is a selfless joy, a joy that is also not conditioned on getting anything back from whoever we are offering it to, but that selfless joy and wisdom of our loving heart, or the heart mind, that can then see into the goodness of ourselves and each other. And with the joy, there's a thread of joy, even in the longing, that all beings may be well. That is the loving kindness. And that a thread of joy as well, and that aspiration when we do compassion practice, that all beings may be free from suffering. Grief is often what we call the near enemy. It looks like it, but it's not quite it, of compassion, because with grief we're clinging. We're clinging to what is not anymore. And so the aspiration that we let go, and passing through that, so that the suffering actually becomes a clearing and a deepening of our wisdom as well, and an opening as well of our heart. So even that thread of joy in there, and as well as in the appreciative joy, where we can open to the goodness and the without greed or ill will, as well as jealousy and envy, of which appreciative joy, as we've learned, is also the antidote to as well, and sometimes not a more difficult one. But today we're going to sort of work with all of that, and we're going to, I'm hoping, we'll see how it goes, move from, in the traditional teachings, the early teachings of the Buddha, he did not have phrases. So I forgot to bring the Metta Sutta itself, but there's no phrases there. We don't have the traditional phrases. There was simply this boundless sense of what is this radiance of the heart going out within all directions, in all four directions, above, below, in front, the side, and back. It was many years, 500 years later, in the Visuddhimagga, that Buddhaghosa actually then spoke of these phrases. Now, I don't know whether they came from him or he was just capturing them and writing of them at that point in time. And those phrases, because when we repeat phrases, we're deepening our focus. Those phrases then become now today, and that comes out of the Visuddhimagga, focusing that then can lead us into deeper states of absorption. So they're categorized in the Visuddhimagga as actually a concentration practice. But the Buddha didn't look at it that way. I mean, he wouldn't necessarily disapproved, but certainly we can hold it both ways. So this evening, what we're going to do, I'm going to play with this a little bit, is we're going to open up, through these images perhaps, hopefully, or just the aspiration. It's not about perfection here, it's just what we're aspiring to. And creating or opening that space, that sense of space within us that may be a touch of that radiance, and then move to the phrases, and then we will come back and rest, and just rest in that. So a little bit of a blend. And we may move, we'll see how it goes. We're cultivating samadhi. I hesitate to interrupt that when we're getting it going. Into a compassion practice. And the compassion practice, I thought I would introduce, some of you may already have done this, a practice called Tonglen. Anybody done Tonglen? Yeah, well, it's often taught in ways that can be a challenge to us, because the Tibetans are very into visualizations, as we will be doing some visualization. But my own experience of Tonglen is that we don't really need to add an image to the suffering of something dark and heavy and breathe that in that may, choke us up actually. And if we have asthma, for sure, the last thing that we may want to do is breathe in, the sense of heavy, dark air. But the intention, again, with Tonglen is to open up before you even begin to do Tonglen, and I will repeat this when we get there in the flow of it, is to open up what they call the bodhicitta, that flash of the heart-mind, which is really what we are cultivating here. And bodhicitta, which means, the awakened heart, is something that some people in Tibet and others, becomes their entire practice. And there's some teachers who have become renowned for just that beaming of that bodhicitta. The Dalai Lama may be some of that. I've never been in his presence, but I understand that there's something that radiates from the Dalai Lama. So this is something within our own ability. These are practices that we can do. And in that radiance, once we bring that up in the tongue blend, it is that we can then, through that we can touch in to the suffering of ourselves or others and breathe it through, because we can't do anything but breathe in anyway, but with that aspiration to release. So that's a different kind of compassion practice. So we'll play with that, and again, just enjoy, and it's not, get too caught up in whatever. You can do your own thing as well. And then we'll move to appreciative joy. And I'm hoping we might have some time to discuss it, because whenever we do the heart practices, they can always bring their own challenges, kickbacks, and all kinds of things. So let us begin. So coming into, once again, a relaxed and open sitting posture. And feeling once again the ground, that groundedness of the earth, that I believe may itself expand and contract with its own rhythms and breath. And perhaps even open now to the description that Analayo gives us in his simile of the sun, as loving kindness or metta, as like the sun at midday, in the height of noon, it shines its rays on all without any preference or attachment or selfish gain, giving its warmth and light to all who are receptive to it. The sun, may that also be like the rays of that Buddha within, that liquefying of the gold. And as the sun implodes and collapses at the center, radiating photons out, so too the loving heart of metta gathers in itself and radiates from that loving space a boundlessness of goodwill in all directions. So, opening to that deep sense of lightness and goodness, perhaps even that sun at noon, the sun in your heart, and letting the words ride now on the sunlight, if they were like streaking beams across your field of awareness. And we will begin with ourselves and move through the 5 layers, the 5 directions. So opening to that sun and that aspiration of goodwill. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I be well. And just breathing them in and out. Happy. Healthy. Safe. And well. Bringing to mind now someone who you hold dearly, someone who may be a benefactor, someone who may have been very kind and guided you in different times of your life. Someone whose image, when it comes to mind, is very uncomplicated. No edges. Just a sort of free-flowing joy, perhaps, in the image and memory of this being. Could even be your dog. So once again, riding that light, beaming from your heart. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you too be safe. May you be well. And perhaps repeating it as you like, holding that image. Bringing to mind now someone who you may not know very well at all. It may be a brief acquaintance, or someone who you see occasionally in the store you go to for your favorite bread, or someone who delivers your mail. So bringing that individual to mind, if it's a person, and offering that same aspiration. May you too be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you be well. Feeling into the heart area, perhaps allowing that smile of the Buddha, which is a teaching in and of itself, to rise and turn into that sunlight, that aspiration. And bringing to mind someone who may be very difficult for you, someone who may have even been hurtful at some time in your life, who frustrates you now. And just simply opening to that aspiration, that they too simply want to be loved and to belong. That they too then, may they too be happy. May they be filled with kindness. May they be healthy. May too they be safe. And may they be well. Feeling into that heartfelt wisdom as well, that if indeed they were free and filled with love and kindness, they might not be so difficult. So letting it rise, that aspiration. And now opening to an image, however it may play, of all beings. People in this room, people in the town, people in this country who also may be needing kindness. Beings that fly, beings that crawl, beings that walk on four legs, beings that swim. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May all beings be happy. May they be peaceful and at ease. May they be well. And opening now to the expanding of that heart's wish. And letting yourself open even more fully to the image of that sun within. It's shedding its light. That is golden. That is our Buddha nature. Our awakening heart-mind. And breathing in and through that space. Touching into that space and just allowing it to grow. And fill you. Perhaps you may notice it is light or warmth. Quivering of the heart. Imagining all that light and warmth extending through your torso and your arms and your legs, and out your toes, and out your fingers, and out your top of your head. In all four directions, boundless as space itself, and as consciousness itself. Immeasurable. And riding that center with your breath. Perhaps even that half smile of the Buddha that radiates as well. The phrases continue to arise, allow that as well. Just letting it all feed and dissolve into the power of this healing light. This bodhicitta. This aspiration. And when, as the sun goes over the course of the day, it begins to descend in the sky at dusk, the sunset is like the glowing heart of compassion. When darkness is nearby, and compassion opens the heart to the suffering of the world, shining all the more beautifully and coloring the sky. So, as we open to that intention, to ride that sun into the dusk, and even imagining as well that flash, perhaps that the Thai monk experienced when the gold light struck out the cracks of the clay, an image of ill will or craving or confusion that keeps us trapped and those we love, and that may hold in its solidity a suffering that isolates as well. Or perhaps an even different image of a cloud, even passing over that setting sun. So bringing your attention to the natural rhythm of your breath, letting it expand and contract in the mind like the sky. Bringing to mind something that may be for you a source of some pain, could be even a memory of an anger of getting stuck in traffic. So it could be something that may rise frequently, or it may be something new. But feeling into that heart and longing, the heart that longs to be free and to break through that clay and allow the clouds to pass so it can come home to its true nature and be free, not clinging. So bringing to mind again, whatever it might be. And as you allow yourself to feel into that, on the in-breath, breathe it through this quivering heart center that may be a light burning here as well. And on the out-breath, release it, not only for yourself, but for any being that may have experienced the same pain. So breathing in, you feel into the tightness and constriction of that, but through this heart that's opening to release and to free you and all beings as you release out into the air again. Anyone who's suffered the same kind of pain. So breathing in, and releasing and breathing it out for yourself and others. And riding that expansiveness of the light that is carrying it in its release. You might even imagine as you are breathing it in and releasing what it might feel like to not have to live with this anymore. And let that fire of your longing disperse it. So taking in a willingness to feel it, a willingness to open to the heart's quivering and longing to be free, and releasing it through that light for yourself and everyone. We may now shift here for a moment and bring to mind someone who you know who may be experiencing some kind of fear or loss. or hurt. It may be someone you know personally, or maybe someone of whom you've heard of in the news. A brother lost, a father lost, or some other kind of suffering. And as you are breathing in and reaching out, opening to what it might be like to look through the world through those eyes and live inside that being, that particular body. In exchanging yourself as well, feeling with the heart. What is most vulnerable? What is the most painful part this person might be experiencing? What does he or she need? So feeling into that. And as you may feel the heaviness of it, the natural heart's longing for it to release, just allowing yourself to breathe in with the intention, may this being, may they be free. And breathing it out, sending them whatever love and compassion, or whatever else you think they may need. So feeling that beam of love in the heart, breathing through that space, and breathing out and sending whatever might be needed. That sun that is even there in the darkness, your own aspiration, that this being and my experience that I am sharing, may we all be free. May we all know love and compassion, kindness. So, as we move in this process of Tonglen, keeping that heart center open, and whatever you breathe in that may be touching the pain of yourself or another, just noticing how you are very intentionally releasing it for them and yourself. Extending outward into perhaps the thousands and the millions of humans or any other beings. So feeling that connection as well. Not only of the suffering that may catch your breath as you breathe in with that love to release, but how on the out-breath you connect and ride that heart's wave outward. Releasing. You might even, as you move with this process, even just ride that aspiration. Feeling the breath coming in and the breath going out. And again, perhaps even that smile of the Buddha that radiates as well, the heart center. Light in the darkness. And that quivering of the heart, that quivering of the light. May, as you continue to breathe, also opening even more fully to that universal sense of how there is this suffering in the world. There is suffering. But there's also this aspiration of letting go and tasting freedom. Letting go the spaciousness of the heart. And tenderness. Suffused with compassion. And now, as the earth turns again, and as the morning begins to return, completing the circle of the sun, appreciative joy is like the coming of the dawn and the sunrise, the breaking of light in the sky, when the birds also begin to sing, breaking the silence. And dew is draped over the hills and the branches of the trees. And the earth sparkles like a diamond in the bright morning light. And depending on the season, the time of year, there still may be the star itself in the sky. So opening to that dawning, that rising of the sun now, fresh, as if this is the first day of the earth itself and of your own being. Everything is fresh and new, like your own breath. And opening now to the joy and the willingness to rejoice in this dawning, as well as the virtue and goodness of yourself. The goodness and the blessings and the joy of your own life. Of your willingness to extend goodwill and love without divide, without preference to all beings. Your willingness to even extend it not only to those whom you hold as deeply beloved, but to those you feel perhaps even an aversion, who may frighten you or who may have hurt you. But that aspiration of the sun, hoping that the rays may penetrate there as well. So appreciating and opening to your own goodness, and to your own blessings, and to the joy that is here as well in the breath and in your life. May I continue to grow and to flourish. And bringing to mind as well a benefactor. May I, or may you too, appreciate your inner goodness and the blessings and the joy of your life. May you too continue to grow and to flourish. Riding that morning light, even someone you don't know, but you may have heard they have had some good news. May you too appreciate the goodness, the blessings and joy of your life. And may you also continue to grow and to flourish. And have good fortune. And perhaps someone now who has also been very difficult, for whom you might have felt a kind of jealousy or an envy, either extending towards them or coming from them, which is just as hurtful. May I appreciate the goodness and blessings and joy of your life. May you continue to grow and to flourish and to have good fortune. And may I appreciate the goodness and blessings and joy that you experience. And may I continue to grow and to flourish with this deepening of our shared joy. And opening now to that boundlessness of the light, extending, and the sounds of the birds, and all these manifestations of this freshness of the new day, and of this appreciation of simply being alive, and our potential to be awake in this moment and the next. And everyone's potential to awaken, no matter who they may be, or how blind they may actually be. So, may we appreciate the goodness and the blessings and joy of all life and of all beings. And may all beings continue to grow and to flourish. And may we all share in those blessings, in that goodness, and in that joy. And riding now for just a moment, the heart's awakening, and its aspiration to be free. And the goodness of that. the goodness as well of our intention this evening to participate in these heart practices. May they also be of benefit to all beings. Namaste. Thank you.